Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than normal. I'm going to be doing more sharing than teaching today. And the reason why is because I think being a therapist and a coach does not make me immune to being human, although we have this unrealistic and unreasonable expectation that just because we've learned a few skills or are a leader or have worked in this industry for a while or have been exposed to personal development for a long time that we should have it all figured out. That our lives need to be perfect and that we should never struggle with anything and always be energetic and motivational and inspiring and positive. And that's a huge issue. 1, because it's not sustainable. 2, because it's not true. And 3, because it's going to cause you a lot of unnecessary suffering. On top of the suffering that you're going to experience because you are human. It's an inevitable part of the human experience. We signed up for it when we got here. And if you add on to that by judging yourself for those temporary moments where you have low energy or you're experiencing difficult emotions or your capacity is being challenged or you're not having ideal circumstances or reactions to them, or especially when you experience mistakes or failures, you're going to make it so much harder for yourself. So instead of judging yourself during those moments or trying to force your way through it or hide away from it all, which is only going to make you feel worse because now you're going into the shame spiral, just acknowledge it for what it is, that it's something you're struggling with and that is okay. It is an area of improvement or maybe something to pay attention to or maybe an area that you want to put some more time, energy, and focus into or a skill deficit that you want to learn and improve on or maybe just an area of life that you need a little bit more tenderness or nurturing or support, and that's okay. Again, remember, just because you're a therapist, a coach, or a leader does not mean that you're void of problems or difficult circumstances. So today what I wanted to do was share a little bit because I think that common humanity piece is really important in terms of healing. When we feel heard and seen and understood and less alone, we're less likely to judge ourselves. And that is the space where we can really neutrally identify what's going on, come up with a plan to move forward and ask for support and help in doing so. And not only am I going to share something that I still struggle with, I'm going to share 4 areas because I am human and life is hard sometimes. So let's go ahead and dive in. So number 1, I still struggle with boundaries. And the reason I wanted to kick off with boundaries is because I think this is an area of improvement for a lot of people. They're simple and there's a lot of information out there about them, but that doesn't make them necessarily easy. Okay. I think boundaries are absolutely necessary for self-preservation and healthy relationships, but it still is difficult to enforce a boundary for a couple of reasons. Number 1, I think sometimes they're hard to discern. The reason why is because boundaries aren't black and white. They're very individualized to each person. They're flexible depending on the season of life you're in, and they can be nuanced, right? Some boundaries are really strict and rigid and black and white, and some are more flexible and permeable and can change depending on the season of your life or the person you're talking to. And so number 1 is really getting clear on what are the boundaries for you and discerning what self-preservation looks like and what those standards are. Now, you can have a boundary for yourself or a boundary for other people. That's a whole nother episode. And I would encourage you to scroll back in the podcast to look for boundaries because I think it was like one of the first 20 episodes we recorded. The second reason why I think boundaries are difficult and why I personally still struggle with them, I know what my boundaries are, but here's the part I get stuck. It's respecting them. And it's me respecting the boundaries, not expecting everyone else to blindly accept and respect them. I think a lot of times we pass the buck and we give the responsibility of our boundaries to other people, but it's actually our responsibility to hold ourselves and others accountable to those boundaries that we have clearly stated. And I think that's the hard part because sometimes we think that we're going to hurt people's feelings or they're going to be mad at us or we're going to rupture the relationship or get fired if we put up a boundary. And even though that might be a consequence, sometimes, a lot of times it's an over-exaggeration. But even if that might be a consequence, the consequence of the alternative is a lot worse. And I can tell you personally and professionally because I've made this mistake in both areas of my life, hence why it's still an area of improvement for me. It's not worth it. That violation, that drain of energy, that lack of reciprocated value, that resent that gets built up, it is not worth it. Boundaries are absolutely necessary for you, for the people in your life, and for the environments and systems you interact with. Okay. And I'm going to share a mantra that I've had on my mirror for the last 6 months that's really been supporting me through a difficult season in my life. And it is, put your needs above others' comfort. That simple sentence has really been supporting me, and I have made a lot of strides in this area of my life. Now, it's still something that I have to be mindful of. It's a continued area of improvement, but it is something that I am working towards. Here's my second thing that I still struggle with, even after having over a decade of experience in this field, and it's asking for help. I know cognitively in my brain that it is impossible to do everything alone. I know that. But that has not stopped me from trying, okay? And the reason I think this is an area of continued improvement for me is because I grew up in a chaotic environment. And I learned early on that there was no one who I could depend on. There was no one that was reliable. I had to do everything on my own. And that developed into a hyper independence that really served me for a long time in my adolescence and early 20s. But I've learned throughout my 30s that it is absolutely not sustainable, and it has led me to exhaustion, fatigue, and burnout. And so I've had to learn that asking for help is actually a sign of self-awareness and a source of strength, and that there are good people who are capable, willing, and desire to help you. They want to show up and be there for you and be supportive and lighten that burden and offer help tangibly or intangibly. And I have learned that because I have swallowed my pride and been humble and leaned into relationships and asked for help when I needed it. And it has really helped me. And now I have corrective experiences where when I have that sticky thought that was 30 years in the making, I have these recent past experiences that I can reference and recognize that there are people in my life that I can ask for help and that they are willing and wanting to help me just like I am willing and wanting to help them. Here's the third thing I still struggle with as a life coach and therapist, and it's self-doubt. I have a human brain, which is still primitive. And even though I spend a lot of time and I've spent a lot of energy and effort and money training it, it's kind of like a six-pack. Once you get it, it doesn't mean it doesn't go away. You still have to maintain it. And that's the case with my self-doubt. Negativity is our baseline. And so it's natural that fear and insecurity and doubt are going to creep into your thoughts, especially on a personal growth journey, or if you're striving towards something that's unconventional, or you're working towards a big goal, or you're trying to become a version of yourself that isn't true yet, and you're in that in between. Those thoughts are normal, and I experience them too, probably more often than I would like to admit. And I have had moments where those thoughts consume me, where I'm fatigued or tired or overwhelmed or stressed or sick, and my natural coping skills aren't enough. And when those thoughts enter my brain, I latch onto them and it gets the best of me. And I've been consumed by things that I haven't accomplished yet, or I still don't know how to do, or I feel insecure or embarrassed about. And that's okay. I always try to make sure that I let it be a moment, not an entire day or an entire week or an entire month or an entire season or an entire year of my life. I acknowledge that emotions are natural. They're reactions to our thoughts and they come and go. And it's my job to experience the emotion, to feel the feeling versus becoming it. And that is very hard for me when it comes to self-doubt, but it's something that I'm continuously working on. And here's the fourth thing I still struggle with, even as a therapist and life coach, and it's anxiety about the future. Listen, I ended on this one because I know I am not alone. It is completely natural to have anxiety about the future. And even though I am very proud of everything that I've accomplished thus far, it is still true that there are also still areas of my life that I'm not where I want to be despite my best efforts. And my anxiety does like to get the best of me. And sometimes it'll keep me up all night, really ruminating about all the things that I did or didn't do, or the things that I still don't know, or the things that I really want. And in those moments, I have to consciously acknowledge that that's anxiety, that that's not the truth, and to choose faith over fear. And I don't mean that in a religious way. I mean that in a literal way where I have to focus on what I have influence over. I have to focus on my strengths. I have to focus on my commitments. I have to focus on my supports and my skills and my characteristics and the things that really help me feel grounded despite the external circumstances that I might not have control over. And that if I just follow the breadcrumbs and keep taking one step forward over and over again, even if I stumble forward, I'm still taking steps forward. And that courage needs to be bigger than my fear. And if I continuously stay in that space of courageous action, which is doing things scared, I will make progress and I will figure it out and I will build my capacity and I will feel more confident, more self-assured, and trust myself. And also identify the things that do cause a lot of anxiety. So it's not just general anxiety for me. It's usually anxiety around these three things. It's around my age, my fertility, and my love life. And so I know that those are triggers for me. I know that those are things that I can spiral really deeply into. And so when those things enter my mind and that anxiety starts to enter my body, I know it's time to really choose again, faith over fear, courage over confidence, and just focusing on the next best step. Okay. Even though I can't fix these challenges, I am aware of them. These are my 4 areas that I still struggle with, but I continuously work on them. I don't judge myself for having those things. I don't beat myself up when I notice them. This helps me stay in an empowered versus embarrassed state of being, which keeps me moving forward. And that will also help you continuously develop your confidence and have healthier self-talk and better relationships with your weaknesses and just continuously build grit and resilience, all of which is going to lead to faster self-improvement. So I encourage you without judgment to identify something you still struggle with and notice what about that is hard for you right now. And instead of immediately going into judgment or shame or embarrassment, can you try to get to a neutral place with it? So maybe ask yourself something along the lines of, what is something I want to continue improving and why is that so important to me? Please let me know in the comments what you liked about today's episode and any questions that you have. I really would like this channel to be interactive and for me to be able to support you all individually. So please let me know what you thought, any questions you have, what you're needing or wanting to see on this channel, and I got you. Also, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you never miss a new video, and definitely check out some of our other shorter trainings on this channel to continue up-leveling your coaching skills.